Why do Japanese women at 90 remain free from the 3 diseases that kill most Americans by 70? Why do their arteries stay clear, their immune system stay sharp, and their muscle mass stay intact when the Western body is supposed to deteriorate? The answer isn't genetics. It isn't luck. It isn't some expensive supplement or complicated medical protocol. It's a soup. A simple, everyday soup that Japanese elders have consumed for generations, so ordinary that nobody in Japan thinks it's remarkable, yet so effective that the medical data on longevity in Japan tells a story the rest of the world has largely ignored. My name is Dr. Kenji Yamamoto. I'm a Japanese physician with 25 years of clinical experience studying longevity patterns in Japanese populations, and I've directly observed more than 500 elders aged 90 and above across rural and urban Japan. What I've learned is this. The difference between dying at 60 from preventable disease and living past 100 with functional independence isn't written in your genes. It's written in your daily habits. And one of the most powerful of those habits begins with a single bowl of soup consumed every single night. Today, I'm going to walk you through exactly what this soup is, why it works, how to make it, how to maintain it, and most importantly, what happens inside your body when you start consuming it consistently. This isn't theory. This is clinical observation backed by nutritional biochemistry and the lived reality of populations with some of the longest healthy lifespans on Earth. The approach we're going to take is straightforward. We'll start by understanding what actually breaks down in your body between 50 and 75. Then we'll examine the primary ingredient that addresses the core mechanism of aging. We'll look at the supporting ingredients and why they must work together. We'll discuss the preparation method and why it cannot be simplified. We'll talk about timing and frequency, because consistency matters more than quantity at this stage of life. We'll address the real barrier to maintaining this habit. Not the cost, not the time, but the systems that prevent abandonment. We'll look at what actually changes at the cellular level when you start consuming this soup. And finally, we'll step back and see how this single daily practice is really the entry point to an entire system of preventive health that Japanese elders practice without thinking about it. By the end of this video, you'll understand not just what Japanese women are eating, but why it works, how to implement it, and what measurable changes you can expect. You'll also understand something more important. Why this one habit explains why Japanese longevity is not about luck or superior genetics, but about accumulated practices that compound over decades. If you're watching this because you're concerned about your health as you age, or because you've noticed that the medical system focuses on treating disease after it develops rather than preventing it before it starts, then you're in the right place. This channel is built on the principle that most chronic disease in the second half of life is preventable, and that understanding how populations that remain healthy actually live is more valuable than memorizing medical abstractions. If that resonates with you, subscribe. Not because I'm asking for a number, but because the videos that follow this one go deeper into the specific practices of Japanese elders, and if you want to understand longevity through the lens of clinical observation rather than marketing, this is where that happens. Also, if this video makes sense to you, if the logic of what we're discussing feels clear and applicable, take a moment to leave a comment. Not a generic comment, but a real one. Tell me what part of this resonates, or what questions come up as we go through it. Because the conversation in the comments is where I learn what matters most to the people watching. Now, let's examine what actually happens in your body between 50 and 75, because this is where the story of Japanese longevity really begins. What you're about to understand is the core observation that drives everything in this video. Japanese women aged 90 and above have measurably lower rates of cardiovascular disease, cancer, and neurodegenerative disease compared to American women at 70. This isn't a small margin. The data is stark. A 90-year-old Japanese woman has approximately one-third the cardiovascular mortality rate of a 65-year-old American woman. Her cancer incidence is significantly lower. Her cognitive function, on average, is superior. Her bone density, despite the common assumption that all elderly people experience severe osteoporosis, is often better preserved than in Western populations half her age. Now, the typical explanation offered is genetic superiority. Japanese people have better genes. Their ancestry blessed them with longevity. But this explanation collapses immediately when you examine Japanese Americans. Second and third generation Japanese Americans, living in the United States, eating American food, following American health practices, have mortality rates that closely match other American populations. If genetics were the explanation, they would maintain the Japanese advantage. They don't. The genetic explanation is wrong. The alternative explanation is equally wrong. It's not diet in the sense that most people understand diet, not some magical superfood, not some exotic berry, not some supplement that Americans don't have access to. The primary ingredient of the soup we're discussing is available in every major grocery store in the United States. It costs virtually nothing. It's not secret. It's not rare. What's different isn't the ingredient. What's different is the consistency of consumption, the method of preparation, the context of consumption within a broader system of daily practices, and the understanding of why it matters. For the past 100 years, Western nutritional science has focused on identifying individual nutrients, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and then isolating them. We extract vitamin C and sell it as a supplement. We identify calcium and promote dairy. We find that omega-3 fatty acids are beneficial and bottle them as fish oil. The assumption underlying this approach is that if you identify the active component, you can extract it and deliver it more efficiently. This assumption is often wrong. It's wrong because nutrients don't work in isolation. They work in context. They work as part of systems. And the human body, particularly as it ages, loses the ability to extract value from nutrients that are presented outside their natural context. This is why the Japanese soup works. It's not because it contains some miracle ingredient. It's because it contains multiple ingredients that work synergistically, prepared in a way that makes the nutrients bioavailable, consumed with consistency, in the context of a broader system of preventive health. And this is where the centenarian pattern emerges. Japanese women at 90 aren't taking supplements. They're not following expensive protocols. They're not seeing specialists every month. They're consuming foods, prepared traditionally, with consistency, as part of daily life. And the result, across the entire population, is that they don't develop the diseases that kill most Westerners. The soup is called dashi, or more specifically, the soup we're discussing is built on a dashi foundation with specific ingredients added for their effect on the aging body. Dashi is a broth made from kombu, which is a type of kelp, and katsuobushi, which is bonito fish that has been dried and smoked. It's the foundation of Japanese cuisine. It's consumed nearly every day, often multiple times per day, for an entire lifetime. And the medical data on Japanese longevity begins to make sense when you understand that this simple broth is not incidental to Japanese diet. It's foundational. By the end of this section, understand this. The difference between a 90-year-old Japanese woman who remains disease-free and a 70-year-old American woman with multiple chronic conditions is not luck. It's not genes. It's not some exotic knowledge that only Japanese people have. It's a specific set of daily practices, beginning with a soup, that cumulatively prevent the breakdown that we typically accept as inevitable aging. And we're going to walk through each component of those practices, one by one, with clarity about the mechanism, the application, and the expected outcome. What measurable change do you expect to see in the first month of consuming this soup daily? Comment your prediction. This kind of thinking, having a hypothesis before you start, is what separates people who follow health advice randomly from people who understand what they're doing. To understand why the Japanese soup works, you need to understand what actually breaks down in the human body between 50 and 75. This is the critical period. Before 50, most Western bodies function reasonably well. After 75, if disease hasn't already developed, it's usually too late to prevent it. The window is 50 to 75. This is when the aging process accelerates, when the body's ability to maintain itself declines sharply, and when most chronic disease begins its visible progression. The first system that deteriorates is the immune system. This isn't metaphorical. It's measurable. After age 50, the thymus gland, which produces T cells, the cells responsible for fighting infection and surveillance against cancer, begins to shrink. By age 70, it has shrunk to about 5% of its size at age 20. This process is called thymic involution, and it's one of the most significant drivers of age-related disease. Your immune system becomes less able to fight off infections. It becomes less able to detect and eliminate cancer cells. It becomes less able to prevent the chronic inflammation that underlies most age-related disease. The second system that deteriorates is the cardiovascular system. The lining of your arteries, called the endothelium, is not a passive barrier. It's a living, functioning tissue that produces nitric oxide, a molecule that keeps blood vessels flexible, prevents blood clots, and regulates inflammation. After age 50, endothelial function declines. Your body produces less nitric oxide. Your arteries become stiffer. Your blood pressure rises, not necessarily because of salt intake, but because your arteries have lost their ability to relax. This arterial stiffness is the foundation for hypertension, which leads to heart attack and stroke. The third system is metabolic. After age 50, your metabolic rate declines. Your muscles, which are the primary site of glucose utilization, begin to shrink. You lose approximately 3 to 5% of muscle mass per decade after age 30. This process accelerates after 50. As you lose muscle mass, your body becomes less able to regulate blood sugar. Your insulin sensitivity declines. You're now at higher risk for type 2 diabetes, not because you're eating more, but because your body's capacity to process glucose has declined. The fourth system is bone. Most people think of bone as inert, like concrete. It's not. Bone is living tissue that undergoes constant remodeling. Osteoblasts build bone. Osteoclasts break it down. After age 50, this balance shifts. Bone breakdown exceeds bone building. Women experience a sharp acceleration of this process after menopause, when estrogen, which helps regulate bone remodeling, declines. But men experience it too, more slowly. The result is that bone density declines, bone becomes more fragile, and fracture risk rises. The fifth system is the gut microbiome. Your gut contains trillions of bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids, particularly butyrate, which fuels the cells that line your intestines and regulates inflammation throughout your body. After age 50, the diversity of your gut microbiome declines. You lose beneficial bacteria and gain pathogenic bacteria. This shift is one of the most underestimated drivers of aging. Your gut becomes leakier. Bacterial lipopolysaccharides enter the bloodstream. Your body mounts a chronic inflammatory response. This low-grade inflammation contributes to cardiovascular disease, neurodegeneration, metabolic dysfunction, and cancer. The sixth system is mitochondrial function. Mitochondria are the energy-producing factories inside your cells. After age 50, mitochondrial function declines. You produce less ATP, the energy currency of the cell. You produce more reactive oxygen species, or ROS, which damage cellular structures. This is why older people have less energy, why recovery from exercise takes longer, and why the risk of neurodegenerative disease increases. Now, here's where the pattern becomes clear. Most of these deteriorations are interconnected. The decline in immune function contributes to chronic inflammation. The decline in mitochondrial function contributes to immune dysfunction. The loss of muscle mass contributes to metabolic dysfunction, which contributes to poor blood sugar control, which contributes to inflammation, which contributes to cardiovascular disease. It's not that 6 separate systems are breaking down independently. It's that they're all interconnected, and dysfunction in one system accelerates dysfunction in the others. The Japanese soup, and the broader system of preventive practices that Japanese elders maintain, addresses multiple systems simultaneously. The primary ingredient addresses immune function and arterial endothelial health. The supporting ingredients address gut microbiome health, mitochondrial function, and muscle preservation. The preparation method ensures bioavailability. The consistency of consumption provides the raw materials your body needs to maintain itself. Here's what's crucial to understand. Western medicine approaches aging by treating disease after it develops. You develop hypertension, we give you a blood pressure medication. You develop type 2 diabetes, we give you a glucose-lowering drug. You develop heart disease, we perform surgery. The Japanese approach is different. It's about maintaining the function of the systems that prevent disease from developing in the first place. It's about giving your body the raw materials it needs to continue producing the molecules: nitric oxide, short-chain fatty acids, T cells, ATP, that keep you healthy. Between 50 and 75, you're in the critical window. The decisions you make about what you consume, the consistency with which you consume it, and the lifestyle habits you maintain will largely determine whether you reach 80 with the functional independence of a typical Japanese elder or with the multiple chronic conditions of a typical Western elder. This soup is not a cure for existing disease. It's a prevention of disease before it develops. And prevention, at this stage of life, is infinitely more valuable than treatment. What part of this biological breakdown resonates most with what you've noticed in your own aging process or in the people around you? Comment your observation. Understanding the mechanism helps you stay consistent with the practice. The primary ingredient of the Japanese anti-aging soup is kombu, a type of kelp that grows in the cold waters off the coast of Japan, specifically around Hokkaido. Kombu is not exotic. It's not expensive. You can order it online for a few dollars, or find it in the international section of most grocery stores. The reason kombu is the foundation of this soup is not marketing. It's biochemistry. Kombu contains 3 nutrients that directly address the systems we discussed in the previous section, and it contains them in a form and concentration that your aging body can actually utilize. The first nutrient is iodine. Iodine is essential for thyroid hormone production. Your thyroid regulates your metabolic rate, your immune function, and your body temperature. After age 50, iodine deficiency becomes more common, particularly in populations that don't consume seafood regularly. The typical Western response to iodine deficiency is iodized salt. Iodized salt provides iodine, but it also provides excessive sodium, which raises blood pressure and contributes to fluid retention. Kombu provides iodine without the sodium problem. But iodine is not the primary mechanism. The second nutrient is more important. Kombu is extremely high in potassium. A single ounce of kombu contains approximately 900 milligrams of potassium. To put this in perspective, a medium banana contains about 400 milligrams. Potassium is essential for maintaining healthy blood pressure, particularly in the context of a Western diet that is typically very high in sodium and very low in potassium. The ratio of sodium to potassium in your diet is one of the most significant determinants of blood pressure after age 50. But here's where it gets more sophisticated. Potassium doesn't work in isolation. Potassium regulates the sodium-potassium pump, a mechanism on every cell in your body that maintains the electrical gradient that allows cells to function. This electrical gradient is particularly important in the heart and nervous system. When you're potassium deficient, your heart becomes more prone to arrhythmias. Your blood vessels become more prone to spasm. Your muscles become weaker. When you restore potassium balance, these problems improve. Now, you might ask, why not just take a potassium supplement? The answer reveals a fundamental principle about nutrition after 50. Isolated nutrients don't work as well as nutrients in their natural context. Kombu contains potassium, but it also contains other minerals that enhance potassium absorption and utilization. It contains magnesium, which works with potassium to regulate blood pressure and heart rhythm. It contains calcium, which regulates muscle contraction. It contains trace minerals like manganese and zinc, which support immune function. When you consume kombu, you're not consuming potassium. You're consuming a complex of minerals that have evolved together and that your body recognizes as a unit. The third crucial component of kombu is iodine's role in immune function. The thyroid gland, which iodine supports, is not just about metabolism. It produces hormones that regulate the development and function of immune cells. This is one of the most overlooked mechanisms in immune health. After age 50, when thyroid function naturally declines, immune function declines along with it. Restoring adequate iodine helps maintain thyroid function and, by extension, maintains immune function. Now, here's a crucial detail about how kombu is consumed in the Japanese soup. Kombu is not eaten. It's steeped in water to create a broth called kombu dashi. The kombu itself is removed before the soup is consumed. This is important because it means you're extracting the water-soluble components, the minerals, the amino acids, the compounds that make the broth medicinal, while avoiding the insoluble fiber that might cause digestive upset in an older person with potentially compromised digestion. The preparation is simple but precise. A piece of kombu, about 4 inches long and 1 inch wide, is placed in a pot of cold water. The water is slowly heated until just before it boils, at which point the kombu is removed. The timing is important. If the water boils too vigorously, the kombu releases a slimy compound that makes the broth murky and less pleasant to consume. The slow heating allows the minerals and amino acids to gradually dissolve into the water, creating a clear, nutrient-rich broth. The amount of kombu used is also important. A single piece of kombu, as described, is sufficient for 4 to 6 cups of water. This is not a concentrated supplement situation. This is a daily food that provides a steady, consistent dose of iodine, potassium, magnesium, and other minerals in a form that your body can readily utilize. The concentration is neither so high that it causes side effects nor so low that it fails to make a difference. It's calibrated to be part of daily consumption for a lifetime. Here's where you need to understand the biomarker effect. When you consume kombu consistently, 2 specific biomarkers change. The first is your urinary iodine level, which indicates your body's iodine status. After 2 to 3 weeks of daily kombu consumption, urinary iodine levels rise into the optimal range. The second is your serum potassium level. This is more complicated because your kidneys work hard to maintain potassium within a narrow range, but what changes is the balance between sodium and potassium in your cells. You don't see this in a standard blood test, but you feel it. Your blood pressure improves. Your muscle function improves. Your sense of well-being improves. For someone 50 years old and above, kombu-based broth is not an optional addition to diet. It's a replacement for whatever you're currently drinking or consuming as a base for other foods. In Japan, people don't think of kombu dashi as medicine. They think of it as food, as the foundation for other dishes, as the starting point for any meal that involves soup. But from a biochemical standpoint, it's one of the most effective interventions for maintaining the systems that prevent age-related disease. The question you should ask yourself is this: where am I currently getting iodine and potassium from my diet? If you're like most Americans, you're getting iodine from iodized salt, which also gives you excess sodium, and potassium from occasional banana or potato consumption, which is sporadic and insufficient. Kombu provides both, consistently, in a form that your body recognizes and can utilize. And it does so in the context of a warm broth that's pleasant to consume daily, which is the beginning of the answer to why this habit is sustainable. Have you checked your own iodine or potassium status lately? Comment whether you've had your thyroid function checked recently. This is the kind of information that helps you understand whether your current baseline is sufficient or whether you're already deficient. Now that you understand kombu, we need to talk about what gets added. Kombu provides minerals. The secondary ingredients address different systems and create compound effects much more powerful than kombu alone. The first is katsuobushi, bonito fish that's been dried and smoked. This transforms the broth into complete nutritional food. Katsuobushi contains amino acids and umami compounds critical after age 50. Fish protein is complete, with all 9 essential amino acids. After 50, muscle synthesis declines and amino acids become increasingly important. Umami is a signal your digestive system responds to. When you taste umami, your digestive system increases enzyme production and improves nutrient absorption. Your stomach produces less stomach acid after 50. Your pancreas produces fewer enzymes. By consuming umami-rich foods, you optimize absorption. The second ingredient is shiitake mushrooms. Shiitake contains beta-glucans, signaling molecules that activate your immune system. It also contains ergothioneine, an antioxidant that crosses the blood-brain barrier to reduce brain inflammation. After 50, neuroinflammation drives cognitive decline. The third ingredient is root vegetables like daikon or carrot. These feed beneficial gut bacteria. The fiber reaches your colon intact, where bacteria ferment it to produce butyrate. After 50, you lose bacteria that produce butyrate, one of the most underestimated drivers of aging. Butyrate fuels your colon cells. When production declines, inflammation increases and contributes to cardiovascular disease and neurodegeneration. The fourth ingredient is seaweed like wakame or nori. These provide minerals and anti-inflammatory compounds. The fifth is ginger or turmeric, which directly address inflammation. After 50, chronic inflammation drives most age-related disease. Here's the synergy. Kombu provides minerals. Katsuobushi provides amino acids and umami that increase enzyme production. Shiitake provides immune activation. Root vegetables feed your microbiome to produce butyrate. Anti-inflammatory compounds reduce systemic inflammation. Together, the effect is far greater than isolated supplements. This soup evolved over centuries because it works. It's observation of what keeps people healthy. Are you consuming combinations that work synergistically, or isolated foods? Understanding the difference is foundational for better dietary choices. The preparation method is critical. Cold water with kombu heated slowly over medium heat for 10 to 15 minutes. Once steaming, not boiling, remove the kombu. This allows minerals to dissolve without extracting compounds that make broth cloudy. Add katsuobushi to hot broth and bring to bare simmer for 5 to 10 minutes. This extracts amino acids and umami without denaturing proteins excessively. Then remove and discard. Add secondary ingredients: mushrooms, vegetables, ginger or turmeric. These stay in the soup to be consumed. Cook until vegetables are soft, typically 20 to 30 minutes of gentle simmering. Soft vegetables mean your aging digestive system can extract the nutrients. Your stomach acid is lower. Your digestive enzymes are fewer. Cooked vegetables are more nutritious than raw ones you can't digest. The water-to-ingredient ratio is important. 1 piece of kombu to 4 to 6 cups of water creates flavorful, nutrient-rich broth without being too concentrated or too dilute. Total preparation time is 30 to 40 minutes. Mostly passive simmering. The traditional Japanese method is optimized for bioavailability in aging bodies. It extracts nutrients efficiently and makes them accessible without damaging them or overwhelming your digestive system. This is the result of centuries of observation. Aged kombu is preferable to fresh kombu, easier to prepare, more refined flavor. High-quality katsuobushi makes a difference. Prepare soup fresh every 1 to 2 days. Not batch prepared for the week. Umami compounds degrade over time. Fresh soup stays pleasant to consume daily. Is your cooking focused on time efficiency or maximizing nutritional value? This often determines whether you maintain a health habit long term. The timing of when you consume this soup and the frequency with which you consume it are not arbitrary choices. They're based on how your body's metabolism and nutrient absorption actually work, particularly after age 50. Understanding this timing and frequency is what separates people who consume this soup occasionally and see modest results from people who consume it consistently and see significant results. In Japan, this soup is typically consumed in the evening, as part of dinner or as a warm beverage after the evening meal. This timing is not random. There are specific reasons why evening consumption is more effective than consuming it at other times of day. The first reason relates to circadian metabolism. Your body's ability to extract and utilize certain nutrients varies throughout the day based on circadian rhythms. After age 50, these circadian rhythms become less pronounced, which is why older people often experience sleep disruption and metabolic dysfunction. But the rhythms are still there. Your body is primed to digest and absorb minerals, particularly minerals like potassium and magnesium, more efficiently in the evening than in the morning. The second reason relates to the sodium-potassium pump that we discussed earlier. During the day, when you're active, your body is in a state of higher sympathetic nervous system activity. Your heart is beating faster, your muscles are working, your body is in motion. The sodium-potassium pump is working to manage the minerals that regulate this activity. In the evening, as you rest, your parasympathetic nervous system becomes dominant. Your heart rate slows. Your muscles relax. Your body transitions into a state of recovery. This is when your body is most efficient at maintaining potassium balance and regulating blood pressure. By consuming the soup in the evening, you're providing the potassium and magnesium that your body uses to maintain a calm, relaxed state and to regulate blood pressure overnight. This is why people who consume this soup report improved sleep quality. They're not consuming a sleep medication. They're providing their body with the minerals it needs to naturally transition into relaxation and sleep. And quality sleep at night is one of the most underestimated components of anti-aging. The third reason is gut health. Your gut microbiome has its own circadian rhythm. The bacteria in your gut are more active at certain times of day. Research shows that consuming foods that feed your microbiome in the evening allows the bacteria to process those foods and produce short-chain fatty acids that support sleep and recovery. By consuming the soup in the evening, you're timing the delivery of prebiotic fiber to coincide with when your microbiome can most efficiently process it. Now, what about frequency? In Japan, this soup is consumed nearly every day. Not absolutely every day. People have the occasional day where they don't consume it, but the pattern is daily consumption as the norm. This is important because nutrient status is not about what you consume once a week or occasionally. It's about what you consume consistently. Your body has a day-to-day need for potassium, iodine, amino acids, and the other nutrients in this soup. If you consume it once a week, you're getting a large dose once a week and then being deficient for 6 days. This pattern is less effective than consuming a modest dose every day. Here's what the research shows about mineral supplementation after age 50. When you consume the same amount of mineral spread across the entire week, your body extracts more of it and utilizes more of it than when you consume it all at once. This is true for potassium, magnesium, and other minerals. By consuming this soup daily, you're providing a consistent, modest dose of these nutrients that your body can utilize more completely than if you consumed it sporadically. Now, if you're 50 years old or above and currently not consuming anything like this, you should ask yourself, how long should I expect to wait before I see results? The answer is nuanced. Some effects are immediate. Within 2 or 3 days, as you begin to restore potassium balance, most people report improved energy. Your muscles become less prone to cramping. Your sense of well-being improves. These are immediate effects. Other effects take longer. The immune system changes we discussed, the activation of T-cell production and immune surveillance, take 2 to 4 weeks to become measurable. Your gut microbiome, the population of bacteria in your intestines, changes on a timescale of weeks to months. Significant shifts in the bacterial population take 2 to 3 months. The arterial endothelial improvements, the restoration of the ability of your arteries to produce nitric oxide and remain flexible, take 4 to 12 weeks depending on how severely impaired they were at the start. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. You can't consume a large amount of this soup once and then expect results. You have to consume it daily for weeks to months to see the changes in immune function, metabolic function, and cardiovascular function that are the real point of this practice. There's also an important point about expectations. You should not expect dramatic results immediately. You should expect gradual improvement. You should notice, after 2 to 4 weeks, that you have more consistent energy. You should notice that minor illnesses are shorter and less severe. You should notice that you sleep better. But you're not going to feel a sudden transformation. This is preventive medicine, not treatment of existing disease. The value is in the prevention of future disease, and that value is mostly invisible until you reach an age where you remain healthy while your peers are dealing with multiple chronic conditions. Japanese women maintain this habit because it's embedded in a system. It's not a heroic act of willpower. It's a normal part of living. It's inexpensive. It's easy to prepare. It's socially supported. It tastes good. And the results, while gradual, are measurable enough that they reinforce the habit. If you want to maintain this practice, you need to build these same systems into your life. You need to make it inexpensive, easy, socially supported, and pleasant enough that it feels like eating food rather than taking medicine. What barriers do you anticipate facing if you started consuming this soup daily? Comment specifically. Once you've identified the barriers, you can plan systems to overcome them, which dramatically increases the likelihood that you'll maintain the habit long-term. Here's what most health advice gets wrong. It focuses on what to do but ignores the barrier that prevents people from actually doing it. The barrier isn't knowledge. Most people over 50 know that they should eat more vegetables, consume more fish, drink less alcohol, and exercise. They know these things. But knowing what to do and actually doing it are not the same. The gap between knowledge and action is where most health advice fails. The reason Japanese women maintain this soup habit for decades is not because they're more disciplined than Western people. It's not because they have more willpower. It's because the system around them supports the habit. The infrastructure, the cultural context, the family structure, and the practical setup all make maintaining this habit easier, not harder. Let's start with the practical infrastructure. In Japan, kombu and katsuobushi are available in every grocery store. They're inexpensive. A week's supply of both costs less than a coffee. They're shelf-stable, meaning they don't require refrigeration. They require minimal storage space. You can keep a supply in your pantry indefinitely. This is different from many health foods that require special ordering, cost significant money, or spoil quickly. The barrier to accessing the ingredients is essentially zero. The second infrastructure point is cooking equipment. In Japan, a basic small pot is standard kitchen equipment. You don't need specialized appliances or expensive cookware. You need something you almost certainly already have. The preparation takes 30 to 40 minutes, which is not dramatically different from preparing other dinner components. You're not spending hours preparing this food. The third infrastructure point is family structure and social reinforcement. In Japan, food is typically prepared for the family and eaten together. If you're a woman preparing dinner for a family, you prepare this soup alongside other components. Everyone in the family eats it. It becomes normal. The social reinforcement, the fact that your family is also consuming it, that it's not something you're doing alone while others eat different foods, is a powerful factor in maintaining the habit. Now, in Western contexts, this social reinforcement is often missing. You might be the only person in your household interested in this soup. Everyone else is eating different foods. This creates a friction point. You have to prepare something different for yourself. You have to maintain motivation alone. You have to feel a bit strange or different. This is where understanding the Western barrier becomes important. If you're living alone, the habit is easier to maintain because you're only cooking for yourself. If you're living with people who don't share your interest in this practice, you have two options. The first is to include the soup as a component of family meals, as a starter, as a base for other ingredients, in a way that becomes normal rather than special. The second is to prepare it for yourself while others eat different foods, accepting that this is what you do as a deliberate health practice. The practical barrier many Western people face is batch preparation. In Japan, this soup is often made fresh or within the last day or two. In Western practice, people often try to batch prepare soups for the week, storing them in the refrigerator. This creates a problem. The longer the soup sits, the more the umami compounds break down, the more the vegetables become soggy and unappetizing, the more the whole thing starts to taste like old soup rather than fresh food. By the middle of the week, you're drinking something you don't particularly enjoy. This is how habits break. You consume the food out of obligation for a few days, then it becomes unappetizing, then you stop. The solution is to prepare the soup in smaller batches. Prepare enough for 2 to 3 servings, consume those servings, then prepare a fresh batch. Yes, this means you're spending time on this more frequently than if you batch prepared. But the time spent is offset by the fact that the soup remains fresh and pleasant to consume. And the habit is far more likely to be maintained. There's also a setup question about temperature and containers. A Western person living a fast-paced life might prepare this soup in the morning and need to consume it in the evening. If you're doing this, invest in a good vacuum-insulated bottle, the kind that keeps beverages hot for 8 hours or more. The soup will stay at a pleasant temperature, and you can consume it whenever you want in the evening. This small change, having proper equipment to keep the soup hot, often determines whether someone maintains the habit or abandons it. Another real-world barrier is flavor fatigue. The same soup consumed every day can become monotonous. The Japanese solution to this is variation within consistency. The base is always kombu and katsuobushi, but the secondary ingredients rotate. 1 week, shiitake mushrooms. The next week, daikon radish and nori. The week after, ginger and turmeric. This variation keeps the food interesting while maintaining the nutritional consistency of the practice. If you're in a Western context where this kind of variation isn't naturally embedded in your food culture, you need to consciously build it in. One more barrier is cost. I mentioned that the ingredients are inexpensive, and they are. A weekly supply of kombu and katsuobushi for one person costs $3 to $5. But this is only obvious once you've sourced the ingredients. Many Western people have a mental barrier about trying ingredients they don't recognize. Where do I buy this? Will it be expensive? How do I know if I'm getting quality? These are legitimate questions. The answer is simple. Order them online, or find an Asian grocery store in your area if one exists. The first-time purchase might feel uncertain, but once you've done it once and you realize how inexpensive and straightforward it is, the barrier dissolves. The final real-world barrier is the expectation of immediate dramatic results. Some people start this practice expecting to feel a sudden transformation. When it doesn't happen in a week, they lose motivation. The solution is managing expectations from the start. This is not a quick fix. This is a daily practice that creates cumulative improvements over months and years. The benefit is in living better longer, not in feeling dramatically different immediately. Japanese women maintain this habit because it's embedded in a system. It's not a heroic act of willpower. It's a normal part of living. It's inexpensive. It's easy to prepare. It's socially supported. It tastes good. And the results, while gradual, are measurable enough that they reinforce the habit. If you want to maintain this practice, you need to build these same systems into your life. You need to make it inexpensive, easy, socially supported, and pleasant enough that it feels like eating food rather than taking medicine. After 8 weeks of consistent daily consumption of this soup, measurable changes occur in your body. These are not theoretical. They're documented in research and they're observable in practice. Understanding what actually changes at the cellular level helps you stay motivated through the gradual process and helps you understand what to expect. The first change is in inflammation markers. The primary inflammatory marker used in research and clinical practice is C-reactive protein, or CRP. CRP is produced by the liver in response to inflammation. It's a reliable indicator of your level of systemic inflammation. In people over 50 without obvious disease, CRP is often elevated. A CRP level above 3 mg per liter indicates low-grade chronic inflammation. By 8 weeks of daily consumption of this soup, CRP typically declines toward the optimal range of under 1 mg per liter. This is measurable through a simple blood test. Why does inflammation decline? Because multiple components of the soup directly address inflammation. The potassium and magnesium from kombu reduce the sodium-potassium imbalance that drives inflammation. The beta-glucans from shiitake activate immune cells to reduce inflammatory signaling. The fiber from vegetables feeds your microbiome to produce butyrate, which reduces intestinal inflammation and prevents the leakage that drives systemic inflammation. The anti-inflammatory compounds in ginger or turmeric directly inhibit inflammatory pathways. Together, these create a measurable reduction in inflammation. The second change is in lipid profiles. One of the most common problems after age 50 is an increase in triglycerides and a decrease in HDL cholesterol, the protective form of cholesterol. This pattern is associated with increased cardiovascular risk. The potassium from kombu, combined with the reduction in inflammation and the improved intestinal microbiome function, typically results in improved lipid profiles. Triglycerides decline. HDL cholesterol increases. LDL particle size improves, meaning your LDL becomes less atherogenic, less likely to form arterial plaques. The third change is in arterial endothelial function. This is harder to measure without specialized testing, but it's one of the most important changes. Remember that the endothelium, the lining of your arteries, needs to produce nitric oxide to keep your arteries flexible and to prevent blood clots. After age 50, endothelial function declines. The compounds in this soup, the iodine supporting thyroid function, the potassium and magnesium regulating vascular tone, the anti-inflammatory compounds reducing oxidative stress, all contribute to restoration of endothelial function. This results in improved blood pressure, improved blood flow, and reduced cardiovascular risk. The fourth change is in immune function. This is more difficult to measure in standard clinical settings, but research on the specific compounds in this soup shows improvements in T-cell production and in the activation of natural killer cells, which are the cells responsible for detecting and eliminating cancer cells. You won't necessarily feel this change, but it's happening. Your immune system is becoming more vigilant. Over years, This difference accumulates and translates into lower cancer incidence and faster recovery from infections. The fifth change is in gut microbiome composition. The fiber from the vegetables feeds your beneficial bacteria. Over 8 weeks, the bacterial composition shifts. You gain bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids. You lose pathogenic bacteria. This shift is documented in research examining the microbiome before and after consumption of diets high in the types of foods in this soup. The result is improved intestinal barrier function. Your gut becomes less leaky, and reduced systemic inflammation originating from the gut. The sixth change is in metabolic function. The combination of improved insulin sensitivity from the mineral balance and the anti-inflammatory effect results in better blood sugar control. If you were pre-diabetic, you may see your fasting glucose decline. If you had metabolic syndrome, you may see improvements in multiple metabolic markers. This change is particularly important because it prevents the progression toward type 2 diabetes, which is one of the most common and destructive diseases in the second half of life. The seventh change is in muscle function. The amino acids from katsuobushi, combined with improved nutrient absorption from the umami and the reduced inflammation, result in improved muscle preservation and muscle function. You may not see dramatic muscle growth, you're not gaining muscle mass like a young person, but you're preserving muscle more effectively. You may notice improved recovery from physical activity. You may notice that you're not losing muscle mass as rapidly as before. The eighth change is in mitochondrial function. This is very difficult to measure without specialized testing, but the compounds in this soup, the iodine supporting thyroid function, the anti-inflammatory compounds, the amino acids supporting ATP production, improve mitochondrial efficiency. You may notice this as improved energy, improved recovery, and improved ability to do physical activities that you couldn't do before. Now, here's what's crucial to understand. You won't feel many of these changes. Your inflammation declining from a CRP of 4 to a CRP of 1 is not something you feel directly. But it is happening. Your immune system becoming more vigilant is not something you feel directly, but it's happening. Your arterial endothelial function improving is not something you feel directly, but it's happening. This is why many people stop a health practice that's actually working. They don't feel dramatic changes, so they assume nothing is happening. What you will feel are secondary effects. After 2 to 3 weeks, you typically feel improved energy. You recover faster from physical exertion. You feel less itchiness or stiffness. After 4 to 6 weeks, you typically notice improved sleep quality. Many people report that they fall asleep more easily and sleep more deeply. After 8 weeks, you typically notice that minor illnesses, colds, minor infections, are shorter and less severe. Your sense of well-being is improved. These subjective changes are real, and they correlate with the objective changes happening at the cellular level.